Okay, so in today's video, I'm going to show you an introduction to a database named HIVE. Okay, so as it is defined, it is a fast, enjoyable, and secure NoSQL database. So it is a database, but it doesn't follow the structured query language. Okay, so you're not going to expect here the select, the update, the delete, and the other SQL commands that we could use in a SQL database. For example, with SQL Server or MySQL database, so they use there the structured query language. So this is a NoSQL database. So instead that we are going to save records in tables, okay? So it is Hive is going to save records in a key value pair, okay, and it is written in pure Dart. Okay, so although this one here is a little bit old, and the author actually recommended if ever that we have need queries and more let us say more complex queries, so we're going to use the ISAR database. But as of now, I'm just going to introduce to you the Hive database. So if ever that you want your data to persist or to save it in your disks, then we are going to use our Hive database. So for those of you who have no database experience yet, so what's the difference of this one with those records that we have saved into our list view in our previous video? So in our previous video, we only used the list view to store, or a list to store our records. But once the app is going to close, so all of those data will be erased from the memory of our device. Okay, but with Hive, we could now persist, or we could save our records or data into our disk, and even if we are going to close our app, once we are going to return or we are going to open our app again, the data is still there. Okay, so that's the term, the data has been saved or it persisted into our disk. Okay, so first is I'm going to show you for how the data are being stored into our database. Okay, so as you can see here, it is saved in a key value pair. For example, I have here the Hive object. Okay, I'm just going to call it user, and I am going to save my data. Okay, so we have here put. So instead that we are going to have the command insert, so we're going to have put. Okay, and our key here is we have the name, and the value is Pedro. Okay, so that if ever that I'm going to get, this is the select in SQL's command, so get then the key, which is name, so it is going to return, it is going to give us Pedro. Okay, so this is how are we going to save, this is how are we going to retrieve. Okay, and always we are going to use our key. When we're going to save, use the key, then the value. When we're going to get or retrieve, we're going to specify the key, and it is going to return the value. Okay, so if ever I'm going to say string name is equal to, okay, we don't have that. Okay, so this one then is going to return the value Pedro, and that would name, let us say let's say nickname, so that we are not going to have the same key with our variable. Okay, so this is going to return the name Pedro, and it's going to assign to the value, no, to the variable nickname. Okay, so again, it is key value, and it is always like this. Okay, so how about if ever that we are going to go deeper? Okay, so it is possible also that my key, okay, for example, let us just say this is the ID, that's called ID, then it is going to return a JSON or an array. I have here, okay, or a map. Okay, so this key here has a value of a map. Okay, so that if ever that I'm going to have user.get 001, it is going to return the map. Okay, and we could still actually add some more data into our map. And also we could have a map inside a map and so on. But as of now, I'm just going to show you on how are we going to work with this simple structure of data. Okay, so take note, key value. And once we have retrieved this map as a value, then we are going to work with this map as the usual or the regular map that we had in our previous lessons. Okay? So what I'm going to show you, I'm prepared here. Okay? A login UI. Okay, so as you can see, we have here two text fields. So we have I have username and password for the text editing controller. So that Hive there is we have for our app bar. Then we have the text that's for the login and the first text field. So this first text field is actually for our username. Okay, so we have the username as our text editing controller. Okay, then the next is we have our password. Okay, so this one. The only difference with the name there is we have obscure text is set to true because we are going to write here asterisk. Okay, then we have the login button. So when you say we're going to log in, so we're going to log in. We are going to validate if the inputted username and the password is within our database, which is Hive. Okay, but if ever the user don't have an account yet, so it is going to click on register. And when we're going to click on register, it is going to open an alert dialog that is going to ask the user for the full name, the username, and password. Then save. So we have here our code for the register. Okay, so I have created a method register, and this is going to return a type of future void. Okay, so for the three text fields is we have here the three text editing controllers. Okay, for the username, password, and the full name. Okay, then okay, so we have here our show dialog. Then we have our alert dialog. So we have here for the title. So we have register. We have it there. And we have the first text field for the full name. Okay. Then the second text field for the username. And the last is we are going to have another text field for the password. Okay. Then save for saving this data here into our Hive database, and close is just actually to close our pop-up. Okay, so we have always here the navigation dot pop. Also here we also have our navigation dot pop as of now. Okay, so that when I'm going to click on save, so actually it is not going to save it yet, but it is just going to close this one here. Okay, by the way, I haven't reloaded it yet. Okay, so now the very first thing that we're going to do is we are going to go to our pubspec.yaml. Okay, pubspec.yaml for our Hive. Okay, so we're going to have Hive 2.2.3. So just go to pub.dev to have the full the details, the whole details for on how are we going to use our Hive database. Okay, so we have here our Hive 2.2.3, and once we have initialized our Hive dependency in pubspec.yaml, so the very first thing that we're going to do is go to our main, and we are going to import the package Hive. Okay, so once we have imported our Hive package, then we could now use our Hive. Okay, wait, I haven't deleted it yet. No. Okay, I have tested it before I opened uh, this video. So I haven't deleted all of my data yet. Of my code, I mean. Okay, so that's all. So we're going to start uh, from the register. Okay, so we have here in our register again. Let's go back to our register. So we have here the username. When I click on the register, so we have here the username, full name, and the password. Okay, then when we click on save, so we're going to have our save routine. Okay. Now, the very first thing that we're going to do is we are going to initialize our Hive object. So how are we going to initialize that? Is we're going to have Hive that open box. Okay, so when you say open box, by the way, with our MySQL database, we call the storage as table. Okay, we have the tables there, but here we call them box. Okay, so take note. When I'm going to refer in Hive as box, that is actually the table. Okay, our table in our MySQL database. So I'm just going to call it users box. Okay, then since open box, by the way, it is going to return a future. Okay, so therefore we are going to issue the command here await, and if everything is await, so we're going to have the async keyword. Okay, so I'm not just going to pop it up. Okay, I'm going to wait for the user to click close so that this is going to be closed. Okay, so after, now take note that it's going to return, it is not void, but it is going to return a box. Okay, and again, if ever that we're going to compare this one with our MySQL database, it is going to return a table. Okay, so in our case, we are just going to call it as a box. Okay, so I'm just going to call it var, then box is equal to, we have this one here. Okay, I'm just going to maximize this one. So after creating or initializing our Hive object, or box actually, so next is we could then use this variable to save our record. Okay, so take note that we have three data. So the username, full name, and password. And our primary key here is we have our username. So the unique value or the unique column here is should be our username. Okay, so therefore here I'm going to have, take note, it would be key comma value. Okay, so for my key I'm going to use the username. So we have our username as initialized as our text editing controller for our username. So we have the variable username. Okay, so I'm going to have username that text. Okay, then for the value, okay, is I'm going to have, okay, so it should be a map. Okay, so we have there password, and we are going to use the password. Okay, which variable is this? Is we have the password. Okay, then next is we have our full name. Okay, then comma, then we have full name, and we're going to use our full name variable. Okay, so this one here, this command here actually saves our record. So again, initialize, then save or insert our record. Okay, so that you could distinguish, or you could relate this command here with our MySQL database. So we have it there, insert. So here we have put, and this is our primary key, and this is our value. Okay, so if ever I'm going to save, let us say Donald for the username, Donald Duck there, and then 12345. So the key would be Donald. Okay, and the password 12345, and the full name would be Donald Duck. Okay, password is we have password.text, and for the full name is we have full name.text. Okay, then after that, the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to close our box. Okay, but again, close is future, so therefore we're going to have the command or the keyword await. Okay, now also with our put, it is also a future. Okay, future void, so therefore we're not going to assign anymore any value because it doesn't return any value from these operations or commands. So we're going to have here await. Okay, so take note our future box, and here we have future void. So therefore put doesn't return anything, but open box is going to return a box. Okay, so close the box, or we have the table. Then after that, if there are no errors, I'm just going to print new user save successfully. Save. Okay, reload. Okay, so I'm going to register. I'm going the full name for Donald Duck. Then for the name we have Donald. Then for the password 12345. As I'm going to click on save, as long as there is no error into our code, so it could now save Donald Duck and other data here into our database. So click on save, save here, new user save successfully. Okay, so we're now going to imagine that this data now is into our database. So how are we going to check if this is already into our database? Okay, so I'm just going to close this one. Then I want to, when I click on login, I want to display Donald. Okay, so login, I'm going to look for login, so we have it here. Okay, now so since I have closed, okay, the box below, so I'm going to create another instance of box here, new hive that open box, then users, is it users box? Okay, now I'm just going to print box that get, then I'm going to get Donald. So take note, we have just added, or let us say save Donald into our database in our previous example. Then I'm going to box that close. Await. Always we are going to await. Why? It is because get. Oh, how come invalid type? I think get box. Okay, unnecessary new. Okay, so into oh wait. Okay. So what I'm doing here, again, instantiate box object. I'm just going to have here user is equal to get. Then I'm going to print the user. Okay. Okay, so we have here the different steps. So first, I'm going to instantiate the box object. So we have here box, then open box. Now, take note of the user's box here. It must be the same with our user's box here. Okay, so meaning we are opening the same table. Okay. Then retrieve the user based on a username which is the key. In our case, I'm just going to get Donald. This is the key that we have saved with our last transaction. Then I'm going to print the user. Okay, then close. So we are going to take note of what is being printed. So take note, we have the username, full name, and password. So save and reload. Okay, as I'm going to click on login, it should display here the details about Donald. So login. So as you could see here, we have a password which was 12345 and the full name which is Donald Duck. Okay, now I have already saved during my testing with the user Pitok. Okay, so let us try. Save, then reload. Click. Oh, no, I deleted. I think I have already deleted Pitok. So what we have only added now is we have, I'll try Colas. So as you can see, if ever it could not find the key that we are looking for, it's going to return a null. Okay, so I hope I have not deleted Colas, but I guess it is already deleted. Okay, so I only have here as of now is we have only Donald. So I'm going to add Pitok. No, Colas. I'm going to use Colas. Dimalas. Then the username, which is Colas, and the password is going to have 54321. Then save. Okay, new user save. Close. Now we now have Colas. So I'm going to click on login. So we have here the newly saved record, the password, and the full name. Okay, so that's how are we going to get our the recorded whatever records that we have saved into our database. Okay, so since I have already registered, we have Pitok. No, we have Donald and Colas. So the next thing that we're going to do is we are now going to do the login. Okay, so how are you going to work with the login? So first is we're going to check if the inputted username is into our list of keys, into our HIVE database. Then next is we're going to check if ever the inputted username here is present or contained into our HIVE data, or into our box. Then the next thing that we're going to do is to look for the password, or actually we could have it at the same time, but what I'm going to show you is one at a time. Okay, so first is how are we going to determine if a given key is into our box. Okay, so check if username is in the box. If username, which is our key, is located into our or present into our box. Okay, so we have here box that contains key. Okay, so we are going to check if our box contains the username that text. So where does username that key came from is we have our text editing controller. Okay, so and contains key is going to return a boolean value. Okay, so we could use then this one here as the condition for our if statement. So meaning if box contains the username inputted, so therefore it is there. Okay, else, okay, I'm just going to print invalid username. Actually, it is only invalid username. Okay, we are not checking the password yet. Okay, that's our first check. So the next check that we're going to have is for the password. Okay, so that is why first is we are going to take note what is being returned now is we have this one here. Okay, the password and the full name. Okay, so we're going to get the details of this username. Okay, so I'm just going to have var. I'm going to say user is equal to box that get. What are we going to get? The key. Take note. We're going to get the key, and the key here is we have the username that text. Okay, so once we already have the user, we could now have, take note, if I want to get the password in a map, so I'm going to have user then password. I'm referring to the key password here, and it's going to return the 54, the value which is 54321. So I'm going to check now if the inputted password by the user is equal to the password generated in our line here in checking our key, which is our username. So here I'm going to have if, okay, so we're going to validate if that the password that text is equal to user text. Else, then I'm just going to print. By the way, I'm just going to print. In this video, I'm just going to print the results. Okay, print dayon invalid password. So even if the username is correct, but if ever the inputted password is not equal to the generated password from the box, so therefore else it's still invalid password. Okay, but if ever valid, okay, the username is contained in our box, then the password that text inputted is equal to the password value here. So we're just going to print login successful for user. Then I'm just going to have the full name. Okay, user then full name. Invalid password, invalid username. Okay, so first we instantiated our box. Okay, so next is we validated, and by the way, yes, we validated if the inputted username is contained as a key into our box. If ever it does not, then we're going to print invalid username. But if ever it is valid, so therefore it is contained in our box, so the next thing that we're going to do is to check for the password, which is contained on the value here, on the value part. Okay, so that is why values is we're going to have get. Okay, so get then username that text. Okay, so this is the key, by the way. Then we have validated if the inputted password, this is from the text field, is equal to the password stored into our HIVE database with this key, with this username. And if ever it is not equal, then invalid password. But if ever it is equal, then we're going to display login successful for user, then extracting then the full name. Okay, so in this very simple routine, we have now created our login. Okay, we have successfully created or coded our login routine. So most probably here, if ever login is successful, you are going to open a new page, then pass these values. Okay, but that would be on the next video. So now I'm just going to have the results being printed into our console. Okay, so save and reload. So we have now Donald. Then the password is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When I click on login, it should display login successful. Click. Okay, so we have it there. Login successful for user Donald Duck. So how about if ever I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? So therefore invalid password. Okay, so it should fall into line number 83. As I click on login, so there invalid password. Okay, so the first validation, if let us say Donald's. Okay, so therefore Donald's is not actually present into our box database as of now. So when I click on login, so it is going to display invalid username. Okay, so we have validated here the user, okay, the inputted user credentials, if ever it is present into our HIVE database. Okay, so we are going to have some validations. Okay, and since we have our username as our primary key or our key, so therefore there should be no duplication of keys. Okay, so if ever a username is already into our database, so therefore it is going to say username already exists. Okay, so I'm just going to create here. Okay, I have created here, by the way, a method that says username exists. Then it's going to ask for the parameter box or the table and the username, and it is going to return. We are just going to use, now take note, it is boolean if it exists. Okay, so we are going to return the value of the method contains key. Take note, it is already boolean, so therefore I could just assign the return value as a return value for this method. Okay, so if the box or the table contains the key that is inputted, so therefore username already exists. Okay, so we are going to use it here. Before we're going to save, so we are going to validate first. Validate if username already exists, and if ever it already exists, then we're going to say it already exists. Okay, so here validate. If Okay, username exists. Then we have our box, we have here, and our username. Username dot text. Okay, so we are going to validate in our validation if exist. Then we're going to say print username already used. Okay, we're just going to have that username already used. Inputted. Okay, we're just going to have that. Okay, but else, so therefore when you say else, so meaning it is not yet or it doesn't exist, it returns false. Okay, so that's the time that we are going to save. Put by the way, our new user would be here and our close. Okay, okay, so first again we have initialized our Hive object or our box. Then we have validated if username exists, passing then the box, okay, the table open here, and the username inputted by the user. Take note, this one here is for our registration. Okay, and if ever it exists, then it is going to say username inputted is already used. Okay, else meaning it is new, so therefore it is going to save. Okay, so how did we check if it already exists? If the box contains the key, the username being passed. Okay, so that's a very simple validation. Okay, reload. Okay, register. I'm going to have, let's say, Donald Trump. Okay, but the username still Donald. Then for the password 1 2 3. When I click on save, okay, it says username is already used. So supposedly you're going to create here another dialog box. Okay, but in my case, I'm just going to print the results in my console. Okay, so but if ever I'm going to say Donald T, okay, then click on save, then new user save successfully. Okay, I click on save again, it's going to say username is already used. Okay, so Donald T, then password 1 2 3, then login, it says successful for Donald Trump. Okay, so again, if you want to have more complicated here structure, then you could add, for example, let us say I'm just going to have it here. Then comma, then we could say address, then we could have actually here another map. Okay, in our map here is we could have street, comma, city, oops, CDO, city, and so on. So this is now a bit complicated, but not that actually complicated. For the address, okay, so that you could fully understand this one, I'm just going to arrange them. Then this one here belongs there. Then we have for the street and the city. Okay. So this is now a bit more complicated compared with this one here. Okay? And we could still add some more if ever it is needed. But as of now, we are just going to concentrate on the very basic structure of our Hive database. And I'm going to have more of these in our next videos. Okay? Okay, so that's all for today. And I'll see you on the next one.